Let me pull this up first.
We're all set. We're live.
Okay, so I want to welcome everyone that's joined us on the internet for this webinar. And we're joined by President Mark Frankel, who is listening in. And what the format we were thinking is, for the candidate membership, over the years, there's been some, I would say, confusion or uncertainty on exactly what the advancement process is. And so we decided to do a webinar. And so this will be like a 10 or 15 minute PowerPoint, but we really wanted to open it up to the candidate members on the call so that there could be an open question and answer. I see that Vice President Javier Duralde has just joined us as well. And so the opportunity not only to ask questions about the membership process, but also to speak directly to your presidential line. So this is the Insiders Club tonight. So my name is Wes Pipitanical. I'm part of the what's called the ASES Member Experience Task Force. And I really like the term task force, or maybe it's called AKA the President's Task Force, but it sounds like a cool thing to be part of. Now, sorry, how do I advance the slide here?
You should just be able to click through.
Yeah. I'm getting a little beep beep. Yikes. Sorry to. Oh boy. There's a arrow at the bottom.
There you go.
So real quick before we start, the mentorship committee asked me to, put in a brief plug to join the mentorship program. So ASES has a mentorship program. It's a yearly program. Basically, a candidate member mentee is matched with either an associate or an active member mentor. It's typically one-on-one. Sometimes there's two mentees to one mentor. And the nice thing about the program is it allows you as newer members to meet new people, foster some new friendships and relationships within the society. The email goes out around the summertime, late July to early August. And the match results come in around September of 2021. And we do that so that gives you about a month to meet your mentor by phone or email and make plans to, at the annual meeting to meet and, have a strategy on how to attend the meeting. So the meeting next year in Tampa, I'd like to think, with the vaccine coming out, that we'll have an in-person meeting that we're looking forward to, President Frankel hosting in Tampa, Florida. So let me talk a little bit about the membership process. So why are we having this webinar? I would say, respectfully, I think there's still confusion as I talk amongst different members about the membership advancement process. And so we're going to discuss some of the strategies and tips that I've learned from having the privilege of serving on the membership committee for the last 6 years. And then I also had a chance to be part of the membership guidelines committee, which formulated this candidate membership category that you're all a part of. And so what I tell you, even though I've been in this for a few years, I'm still a little bit confused myself. But to everyone listening, there's hope. And I'm a big Star Wars fan, and one of my favorite lines is from Rogue One. I mean, Jyn Erso's rebellions are built on hope. So there's hope for everyone out there at the candidate level. So what are we going to talk about? Here's the outline. So a brief historical background on the ASES membership, talk a little bit about the advancement application timeline in terms of the actual process. I also wanted to dispel or address some myths and legends, these urban myths and legends that have been associated with the ASES, go over briefly the shoulder and elbow CV score, as well as some recent changes to the membership. And then finally, the last point, there are certain things that do resonate more so with the membership committee. And so not necessarily all points are, equal. They may be a point, but there are certain things that are emphasized a little bit more. So if we look at the background, historically, you would start as an associate member at the first level, and then the next level would be an active membership. There is a corresponding member for international, and that's a separate category. In 2014, when Rob Bell was president and has addressed, he emphasized the importance that, ASES needs to be a lighthouse, not a clubhouse. And so he stressed that we need the membership to become younger and expanded. And the following year, the candidate membership vote passed at the 2015 annual meeting. I remember Bill Mallon, he had a slight relieved tone in his voice when he said, "We did it." And the reason he said that, this was many years in the making, behind the scenes. And so after that meeting, the candidate membership started in 2016. And there is a 5-year term. So some of you on the call that started in 2016, this is the last year of your candidate membership. And I'm a big NBA fan. I'm out here in Los Angeles. I think of NBA expiring contracts. And so I will tell you, I like to think we're back. It's been 10 long years. I was fortunate enough to be at Staples Center in 2010 for Game 7 when Kobe won number 5. And so 10 years later, well, nobody was there because it was in a bubble. So I think the Lakers are looking good. Advancement membership process. So these are the steps. Basically, first, you fill out an application and you have 2 active members be sponsors. And we're currently in that step 1 right now. We start in mid-November to mid-January. Then once you fill out your application and the sponsors fill out their forms, sponsors fill the forms, the applicant has 3 reviewers assigned from the membership committee. And those reviewers, over the period of February and March, will have a chance to look at your, application in preparation for the membership committee meeting, which is usually end of March or early April. The membership committee meets twice. Every single applicant is discussed. And then the membership committee will take a list of those that are recommended to advance and submit that to the executive committee. The executive committee then approves that. That would be step 4. So membership committee vets and approves. Executive committee will then approve or disapprove. Usually over the years, this has been a formality. I don't recall, at least in my 6 years, that the executive committee sent someone back. If it was a very rare. And then once that's approved at the executive level, an email is sent out to all active members to vote on approval of the list. And I don't know if the presidents would like to weigh in. I can't remember ever the member being turned down at the active membership vote. Has that ever happened?
Yeah, about 20 years ago it happened. And basically in situations like this, what you find is someone who seems to be pretty good in the meetings and participates in committees and things like that, but is often toxic in their own home environment. And some of the people who know him from that sort of environment will say some things about him that were unknown to the committee before. But I know of one for sure. There may have been 2 in the last 20 to 30 years. So it's extremely rare.
So, I think that's a perfect segue into the next part is what I call the urban myths and legends. But we do know that perception is reality. So, Vice President Javier makes the point once or twice in the last 20 years. And, that has kind of permeated down through the years. And I remember when I started, there was a thing like, the membership's going to vote. I hope I pass. Because we've heard that sometimes it gets kiboshed at the active vote. So typically getting the membership committee's support and approval is really, 98, 99% of the, process. And so, some of the other urban myths and legends that have come over the years, that ASES wants to be a small exclusive club. And, that may have been the fact in the past. And there may be some that still would like that, but that's, I would call a very small minority. Another, I think, myth and legend is I haven't published or I am not academic enough. That's the one I often hear. I'll tell someone in our community, hey, you do a lot of shoulders. maybe you should be part of the society. Oh, Wes, I'm not academic enough. And then your only academicians are in that society. The other one I hear about is I don't have enough points. I'm worried about that, so I don't think I'm going to apply. I haven't fulfilled the criteria for membership. That's another one I've often read. There is criteria that's listed on the website, and there are quite a few criteria, but if you read it, it's kind of hard to look through the words, but these are recommendations, not absolute requirements. And so when I read, a lot of times you'll read that and say, well, if I don't have these 12 things that are on the recommended criteria, I really shouldn't apply. And so to me, like, again, I'm in California, it's pretty strict out here. It sounds like the current California lockdown, right? We suggest you stay home. We recommend, well, you should travel, but drive, but don't cross the state, but maybe quarantine, but think about it. So let me go to the website where there's a section which I really like. It's called Advancement Tools. It's near under the membership area. And it talks about the shoulder and elbow CV score. And so the CV score is listed here, and we're going to go through this quickly. It's a long list, but it's actually simpler than it looks. So if you look at these categories, we'll start at the top. So meeting attendance in the last 10 years, and each meeting gets 3 points each. And these are ASES meetings. So like ASES sponsored, like the annual meeting in the fall, the specialty day, ASES meetings at the OLC. Technically, this does not include, President Frankel's meeting, the Tampa meeting. Maybe we can make a presidential exception this year. I don't know. The ESH meeting, the New England Society meeting, does not count in this. But one thing I would emphasize, this is the only category that you get 3 points per activity. And there's no maximum cap points for meeting attendance. So meeting attendance, you get the most points for, and there's no maximum. The second category after that is committee participation, whether it's AAOS or ANA or the ABOS. That's 2 points each for a maximum of 10 points. The next slide is about publications. Peer review and fellowship gets less points than peer review publications in practice. And if you look here, it's 1 point for authorship, whether lead or senior, and half a point for co-author with 10 points maximum. You'll notice there are more points for publishing after your fellowship with a maximum of 20 points. And so something I want to bring out to the candidate members in the audience, if you look at the publication points to meeting attendance, you'll notice something. So let's say like you attend the annual fall meeting and the specialty day meeting at AOS for 5 years. That's actually 30 points, which is the same as the maximum points you can get for all peer review publications. So if you're someone who published 100 papers and you have 30 points of publications, or if you're someone who attends every meeting for 5 years, you have the same number of points. I think my math is good. The Asian things, you go to Kumon, you got to do math since you're 3, but my math, I put it out here to make sure I'm not wrong. 2 meetings times 3 points per meeting, 6 points per year times 5 years is 30 points. And so one of the things that we talk about is participation points. We'll talk a little bit about that later. The next point is called leadership roles. They're both leadership roles for like teaching, whether you lecture, you do grand rounds, you do lab instructorship, that's 1 point each, maximum of 10. There is a category called for local leadership, whether you're in your local hospital communities, committees for your hospital, QI, team physician, that's 2 points each, maximum of 10. I do realize the leadership categories are a little bit vague. I did 6 years on membership, and I still had a little bit of question on leadership categories, but overall, that's kind of what we're looking at, is things that are done locally and then teaching outside. Getting toward the bottom of this, the case reports and book chapters, you'll notice that these are the lowest point categories, writing for a case report or book chapter. And then if you look at the podium scientific presentation, that's only a maximum of 10 as well. with a half point each. Things like grand rounds presentations and industry don't count here, but you can get points for those if you put those under your leadership roles for teaching. Here's something that was a newer thing brought into the last couple of years is giving points for being a JSES reviewer. 1 point each, with a maximum allowable of 10. And Dr. Mallon, who is Bill Mallon, the editor-in-chief, this email is listed here. And he said many times, every time he gives the report at the meetings, he's always looking to have more reviewers. So if you're a good reviewer, you want to do more reviews, you're timely with your reviews, if you email him, I'm sure he'd be happy to send you more to repeat. You know, I've proposed initially at the membership level to maybe we should increase the max points for JSES reviews, but that didn't really have the support yet. And I kind of say it's baby steps. We're moving in a direction. The advocacy is a new category for political advocacy. This is 6 points max. And this was a new category because I think the society wants to reward members who want to get involved. And the website has a long list of these items. So that's really the shoulder and elbow CV score. There were a few changes to the 2021 applications cycle that the presidential line just approved. And one of the things is the applicant can initiate the process. You know, in the past, you couldn't even get an application until your sponsor, you know, put the sponsor form, and then you get the application, but you're waiting for your sponsor, so you can't do anything. So that has been changed, and that's new for this year. So if in the past you waited for your sponsor, please don't do that. Get an application, request an application, list your sponsors, and then you can hound your sponsors at the same time. You'll notice that the points for attending the meetings now is for the last 10 years, as opposed to just the last 5 years. On the website, we have listed the range of people that have advanced to associate over the last couple of years. So that range is anywhere from 30 to 90 points. Previously, we only had the average listed. And so sometimes you're just out of practice. You see 60 points. You're like, man, I can't get to 60 points in 5 years. And actually not many people can. And so what I will tell you, while it's an average of 60, there's kind of a selection bias because candidate membership is relatively new. And many of the people that advanced already were initial tweeners between the candidate and the associate membership. And so the membership committee, when candidates started, put more people in candidate membership because, you know, it was a newer category, said they can start there and then move up. So I will tell you, we anticipate that the average advancement point score will probably decrease as more candidate members advance. So the last point I want to make about is, what does the committee emphasize? And if you look at the CV score, I put arrows on 3 specific categories: the meeting attendance, committee participation, and the JSES review. Now, the membership committee has been giving more weight to participation type points versus publications. And one of the things I remember hearing every year when there's this discussion, like some people would say, well, this guy doesn't publish that much, or this guy doesn't. And there's like, not everyone can publish. We understand that, but everyone can participate. So once again, I like to emphasize these 3 categories. The meeting attendance by far is number 1. This is the most discussed topic at the membership committee meetings, year after year after year. I mean, there were some people that wanted to go to active level who published a lot, but they never went to meetings, or they go once every 3 years. And so the committee would not advance them because they were like, they are not really participating. Committee participation, I know it's listed the AOS and ABOS, but ASES committee participation, I think, is something that is also looked at. And I know that the presidents that are on the line have really wanted to push, you know, candidate members applying for committees, you know, to get the members involved. And then once again, we can all do JSES reviews, and Dr. Mallon's always looking for reviewers. So, you know, as a younger member, you get a reputation as being a, you know, on time and timely reviewer, you'll see more of those opportunities. So once again, you know, those discussion points that I mentioned, there is no maximum point limit. It's the only category that has 3 points, the meeting attendance. The journal reviews we talked about. please apply for committee service in 2021. Steve is on the line from ASES, who's going to be monitoring the questions, and he could maybe give more details. I don't quite recall when the committee application process is. I think it's more in the summer. One thing that's mentioned, that when you score your CV points, sometimes the accuracy, if you over-report, that can have a negative connotation. And so if there's uncertainty, I would reach out and ask. This doesn't get points, but I'm going to bring this up. The personal statement, while it's not really a point generator, I will tell you this comes up every year on the committee. Some people have their application and the personal statement is like blank, like there's nothing. And that really kind of rubs committee members the wrong way, because they're kind of like, well, at least maybe put like, I'm thrilled to be part of the society, or I love to be considered to advance. And, you know, the big blank is kind of like, you know, it kind of can rub certain people the wrong way. And so that can sidetrack a good application. So it doesn't happen that often, but it's just something that I noticed that's talked about every year, about where's the personal statement. So something I would encourage you to do. The society really is, the intent for candidate membership is to advance and become associate members, to become permanent members, not time limited. We're looking to less emphasis on the number of points for associate membership. So something that was mentioned last year is 30 becoming the new 50. The active membership bar is going to remain at the higher levels that traditionally were there at the 80 to 90 point range, but the committee, like we talked about, looks at more than just points. And so to summarize, I'd say the path to associate membership is, you know, participation. And with that, I look forward to, you know, I spend my summers in Thailand. This is where my in-laws, they run a gas station. My father and mother-in-law, like in their 80s, and they open this gas station 365 days a year. I mean, so we go every summer. What do you do on a gas station? Well, you pump gas and you take money. There's no credit cards there. It's Western Thailand, so it's just cash. But the travel ban, we haven't been back since 2019. I don't think we're going this summer either. But you know, it's relaxing out here. It's, you know, it's comes you know, something to do. And I really hope we have a lot of questions or comments. Maybe the presidential line would like to weigh in. Steve, do we have some questions from the audience so that, you know, we can, you know, start talking about?
Yeah, there was one question that I just answered actually in the chat, asking about the committee on committees cycle for the volunteers. So just to reemphasize that, the call for volunteers typically goes out in late spring, early summer. And then once the committee on committees selects all the appointees, they would be their terms would begin immediately following that year's annual meeting. So the committee terms always go from annual meeting to annual meeting.
Yeah, so they start, yeah, right. But to look for the thing in spring, early summer, because it's sometimes hard, you sometimes miss it too.
Yeah, another thing that's changed too, I mean, this year, I know I hear it a lot, main issue that I get, main concern that I get from members is, you know, I apply every year and I just never get selected. And that is definitely an issue. I mean, there's only a certain number of committee positions available each year, and that can vary depending on the year. When we get like 140 applicants and there's only 40 positions, a lot of times there's not much we can do about that. This year was actually the first year that we were able to appoint everyone that applied. Also the committee terms have changed. They used to be 3-year terms. Now they're 2-year terms. So that will hopefully cycle people through a little bit quicker and get more people involved.
Yeah, I'd like to just make a comment about that. You know, when I was the chairman of the committee on committee, that was my goal, was to make sure that anyone who wanted to be on a committee could serve. And I would emphasize Wes's point. we want all of you who want to be in our society to be in the society, but we want you to participate. We want you to be active members. Everyone has something to add to our society. That's what makes it so great. Some guys are going to be academic. Some guys are going to be computer wizards. Some guys will have some insight about some other activities, sports activities, community service, some local event that will serve as ambassadors from our society to the community. Bill Mellon is, or excuse me, Tony Miniacci is the head of the foundation. And the foundation is a portion of the society, and it's often not talked about, but the foundation is one of the fundraising parts of the society. And as such, it also has its own group of volunteers. So it is now, if you can't find an opportunity to serve the society, if you serve the foundation, then that also will be something that will accrue some points, and we looked at favorably by the membership society. And Tony is starting shoulder and elbow week, which is going to be a community outreach. It'll start, I think, the month before my meeting in Tampa. Javier is going to have a similar thing in Atlanta, which basically we want to introduce the communities that we serve in, the idea of what a shoulder and elbow trained surgeon can offer them, and highlight shoulder and elbow problems to the community. And so those are things that, you know, if you want to be a participant, we're eager to have you, and they will also go toward membership.
Yeah, I just like to.
Go ahead.
I'd like to start just by thanking Wes for putting this whole thing together, and you did a great job. And I think it really emphasizes the fact that we really are working to try and transform this from a small society to a large society, in which everyone's involved and everyone is important. You know, we don't want it to be a cliquey society, and that's why Mark and I are on this call tonight, and that's why Mark created that whole committee on the ASES experience. And we know there's going to be growing pains to figure out how do we grow in this way, but certainly your input is very important to us, because we can figure out what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. And I think Wes really hit it on the head, that the most important thing is participation in some form. We all bring different gifts to the table. Everybody's got different skills and strengths, and you have to use what your skill is to contribute in some way. Now, everybody can review articles, so I think that's something that's sort of a no-brainer, and really part of being in the trenches in our society is supporting our journal and doing that. The mentorship, I think, is a great thing, and then from your end, when you're a candidate member, be a mentee. It's kind of fun to have a sort of one-on-one relationship with one of the older members in the society. And, you can ask them about anything. My mentee and I, sometimes we review cases together. Sometimes we talk about practice development. We talk about all kinds of different things that are beneficial that you kind of, go through in your practice evolution. And it's good to hear. And then hopefully in a few years, you'll be on the opposite side of that. And mostly we really want every person in the society to sort of be the shoulder referral person in their community. We want you to be the one that is there as a resource for everyone else who has complicated shoulder patients, who doesn't know what to do with them, either teaching them what to do or accepting those patients, letting people know that you're available to manage those kind of cases. And I think that's the main thing our society can do to benefit our patient population, is to take on those cases that nobody else wants to do, and be willing to do that kind of stuff. So we're eager that every single one of you who wants to be in the society becomes an associate member, and that's why we're doing this. And we want to know if there's hurdles in the way, we want to get them out of the way so you can do it. And we want active people, and we'll do everything we can to get you participating in some way or another. But we're really looking forward to a very vibrant society. Wes started the talk saying how Rob Bell in 2014 said we needed to be a lighthouse. I remember back in 2004, so 10 years prior to that, Joe Zuckerman being a big advocate of expanding the society and doing what we're doing now. And it took 10 years between him really pushing for it and Rob Bell pushing for it before it really happened. So it's really monumental that we've been able to get to where we are now. And we really want to take advantage of our size to really be a much more stronger voice for management of shoulder problems. So thanks, Wes.
Well, I appreciate that. What you're hearing is this is straight from the presidential line, that, you know, this is the direction the society's going. And that's why, you know, there's so many people behind the scenes that worked to get the candidate membership going. And I mentioned a couple of the presidents, and that's why I think Bill Mallon, I remember he had a sigh of, we did it. Like, this was a, you know, a 10, 15-year process that, you know, moved in that direction. And so you can be assured that, you know, our current, you know, presidential line over the next 2 years is going to continue to push, you know, this narrative and what we want. Yeah, Steve, there's a bunch of questions. I'm typing them back and make sure we're not missing any.
Yeah, I've been going through and trying to catch all of them. I think we've got most of them either in the chat or answering them live.
Yeah,
but if we missed your question, feel free to type it in
type
again.
it again. It's not, we're not ignoring it. And I think with Sharif, yeah, put on the thing. President Franco said to put it on there, man. I mean, I would type that word for word, because you don't know who's reviewing. And there's so much paper for the membership committee. I mean, these things are long. I mean, these things you go through. And so, yeah, make sure you put it in there. So somebody says, why is this guy over-reported? You say, well, call Frankel. If they could, you know, weight lift more than him, then, you know, they could do it. But I don't think they're going to get that.
That's an easier feat now, Wes. Thanks a lot. Now I'm really bummed out.
Oh,
Um,
you still can beat me.
Yeah, I saw that, but I can't pump gas.
Oh, yeah.
Are there JSES points per review? Again, I would say that the point thing is certainly, you know, we all like metrics, every one of us. That, you know, if you go to the meetings, you hear everyone says if you can't measure it, you know, you can't tell one thing from another. But a lot of this is an evolution. And so I would say if you're doing a lot of reviews and you do a good job on the reviews, so doing the review, being timely, but, you know, a good review, I think it's something that should be counted for quite a bit. And so I suspect that will change, the point limits for that. Just like there's no points for participating in the foundation activities, but the foundation activities are brand new. So we really didn't have that even something you can even think about, because it didn't exist before. So, you know, we want people to participate. We want to make opportunities for people to participate, as many as we can, because we think all you guys can contribute. And really what we want is people that love shoulder and elbow problems and want to talk about them and discuss them and think about them and talk about the cases that plague you and the ones that are the successes that make you feel really great, you know? So there was a question about if you're denied advancement, can you get feedback the following year? That was a question.
Yeah, I just answered that in the Q&A as well, but I'll answer it live. So typically everybody receives a letter either saying you've been approved or you've been denied. And typically if you've been denied, that letter will state at least a couple things that you can do to increase your probability of advancing down the road. A lot of times, as Dr. Pipitanical mentioned, they always suggest meeting attendance is the biggest thing, JSE's reviews, things like that. They always suggest that. And then if there was anything specific that stood out to the committee and came up in conversation, like this person didn't do any publications in the last 10 years or something like that, then they might note that in there. Or if there's anything else that sticks out, usually that'll be in the letter. I mean, if you ever think that it's not clear when you receive that letter, you can always follow up and we can give you more feedback as well.
And Steve, is there a form maybe, you know, for feedback for this webinar? Like that, I don't know if you want to set up an email thing where they can, you know, send feedback and some of these suggestions about, you know, reviews for other journals. I agree with Mark that I think we should increase the points for journals. And then do we want to include other journals? I will tell you, I had broached that subject with membership committee, but I don't think we quite had the support. We kind of, there's a give and take. We got the 10 years. There's some other things we did. But I think that's eventually going to happen. And so I think if we have the webinar where, 10, 15 candidate members, the same feedback we kept getting is this, then it probably gives the presidential line a little bit more, because it's a growing society, and it's a balancing act that the presidential line has to do with keeping everyone there. So I'd like to have some kind of format so we can get people's input.
Yeah, I mean, we can always look into sending up like a follow-up survey or something like that to get feedback. I see that Dr. Liu is raising his hand. If I can,
Talking per
if he
minute.
wants to ask a question. I think he's muted though.
So while you get to that, Catherine asked the question about, because the meetings were canceled because of the pandemic.
Yeah,
how are we? Yeah, I don't know how that will work. I guess because this year the annual meeting was virtual, so I guess if you signed on virtually, that would count. And a specialty day that will be coming up in February, I guess that'll be too late for this season, but there'll be 2 specialty days. There'll be a virtual one in February, and there'll be a live specialty day in August in San Diego. It's not a specialty day in August. It'll be, I don't know, a specialty session or something. But I think there'll be points allocated. Again, what we want is participation, and we want to reward people that participate, and we want those people who want to be in the society to be in the society. We certainly want people to have participate and do activities, and not make it so anyone just joins, because then it doesn't mean as much.
Yeah, and I will say that I don't see why the membership committee would have any issue counting the virtual meeting as meeting attendance. I mean, there's nothing anybody can do about the pandemic, their understanding of that. It's still participating, attending virtually. It's doing everything you can. So I would say definitely put that on there. There was another question here. If you fail after 5 years of candidate membership to become permanent, can you apply for another 5 years as a candidate? Now that question has actually never come up.
Yes,
I mean,
that's a good question.
Since the candidate membership has only been around now for just coming up on 5 years, this is the first time we've gotten to this point where candidates have to apply to advance or lose their membership.
Yeah, and I would answer that. I think it's not likely. And the reason is that the whole idea of the candidate member was, what we didn't want to have people have happen is they got on to the society as a candidate member. They really didn't do anything. They really maybe never participated, and maybe it just wasn't for them. But they still wanted to sort of be involved and be able to say they were a candidate member of the ASES on their CV. And so we really didn't want to encourage that. We wanted people who wanted to be in the society to actually be engaged in some way. So if you now started your practice, and for the first 4 or 5 years, you're just inundated with life, and now you realize you really want to be involved in the society, I just encourage you to try to verbalize that and act upon that, and do some things that you can act upon now. And if it, just give it your best shot. But really, I don't think you have another 5-year chance, because we really want to make sure that we want people to participate. So there might be an opportunity if you really came on strong near the end and said, look, this is what happened, then perhaps you might have some extension, but it probably won't be another 5-year shot.
Yeah, and the other thing too, I mean, there's nothing to prevent you from applying as an associate member down the road too. I mean, if down the road you attend more specialty day meetings, do more JSES reviews, and get involved in other ways, then you can always reapply at any point.
Yeah, I think the point is that the membership is active. I mean, we want people that are all working, rowing in the same direction, trying to improve shoulder and elbow care. and improve our knowledge base in shoulder and elbow. And we don't really want passive members that are just sort of coming to meetings and listening and not doing anything to contribute.
Steve, are there any other questions? And I left my email, and Steve, I like the idea of sending a feedback survey, or
So,
if you want to.
Wes, before
Yeah.
before you sign off,
Yeah.
What I'd like, I know there's a lot of you guys on the line, but maybe some of you can respond. So maybe you can tell me if you think there are things that we in the society could do to enhance the society so it makes it more inviting, that you want to do something, you want to get involved. So what things could we do to make the society more desirable for you? So you guys, if you can type in some things or send things, you know, that was the whole idea of this task force. It's called the Membership Task Force, because we wanted to really provide a society for the members. So, you know, Javier and I have been in the society so long, we can't even remember most of it. I certainly can't. So it's really good to get new ideas and new things that will get you guys things you want. I'll give you a point for anyone who responds.
We'll have to add a new section
Yeah.
to the CV. Frankel points, we'll call it.
That's right.
You know, Steve, I saw some of my responses were just to panelists. I didn't realize there was an all panelists and attendees. So if some people didn't get responses, I apologize. Like I typed a bunch of responses here and it went to the panelists. I'm just wondering if so for the JSES review, I think it came back twice. It's 1 point per JSES review. So 5 reviews is 5 points. Currently only for JSES. You know, maybe it should be discussed about including other journals in the future, but for right now, we're just at 1. So
Yeah, I mean, in the 2 thing in the message, you can select all panelists and attendees.
Yeah, I know, but my lack of technology, I just figured that out at the end of the webinar now. So I apologize
Yeah, I mean,
to those. I've been typing fiendishly here, and I don't know if people have been getting. There's no limit to the number of candidates that advance each year. That was a question.
Yeah, there's no limit. That was talked about live, I
Okay,
think,
good.
as well.
Yeah, specialty day prior to candidate. Okay, as long as be more recent. Okay.
I think, you know, if you look at what the value is of a journal, the value of a journal is peer review. You know, that's the effort and the refining of each article that goes into it. And you know, the thing that's of value to our society is our journal. So, I mean, personally, I don't think, you know, reviewing for other journals counts towards this society. It should, you know, count towards whatever society you're doing, you know, sports medicine, arthroscopy, whatever. But the one that matters to us and to our society, and the one that, you know, the finances from that journal we use to fund international fellowships and traveling fellowships and a lot of other research activities. So it's something that has a lot of benefit, not only directly from the teaching that it gives, but also, you know, the financial reward we get from it that we can use to further advance research and advance cooperation with other international societies.
So
And with the expansion of JSES into the family of journals too, there's going to be a lot more reviews going around, a lot more works. So
yeah, I think we would count on membership, right, Steve? Any JSES journal, whether it's open, closed, JSES reviews.
yeah, I mean, now that those new journals are, I mean, they're electronic only, but I mean, they're still JSES family journals. So if you've reviewed for them, I would put it down on the CV.
yeah, and I would make a plug that this is not out yet, but Javier has really ignited the traveling fellowship. So historically, there's been a fellowship every other year for, I think it was 2 ASES members, and they would go for 3 or 4 weeks to European shoulder and elbow centers. Now we're dramatically expanding that program to go to Asia, Australia, and of course Europe still. So those, as Javier said, they're funded for some of the proceeds from our journal. And, you know, we are also going to have fellows from those countries obviously visit our centers. And again, it's not going to just be, you know, the academic centers that will have the visiting members from other societies go to, because that would be another way you can host visiting shoulder and elbow surgeons. I've done that, and it's a lot of fun to do it. You get to learn a lot, meet friends from different cultures. So again, there's a lot of exciting things that we're trying to do to continue to enhance the society for all of us.
Does anyone have any other questions? Don't hesitate to let us know. Or, I mean, if you think of a question later, you can always email me as well. I'll type my email again here in the chat just so everyone has it.
Yeah, and you can add mine, Steve. You know, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah, I just sent it to the panelists probably earlier. See, I did that. Here, I'll do it again.
Good night, everyone. I'm going to sign off. Thanks, Wes. You did a great job, Javier. And thank all of you for signing in for this. Hopefully this has helped you. We all look forward to having you involved in our society. Good night.
Have a good night, everybody.
All right.